Welcome back to another Shatterproof Speaker Series. My name is Renee Barros, and I am one of the Community Engagement Directors for Shatterproof. Today, we are going to talk about the film Crisis. Joining us today is Nicholas Jarecki, creator, writer, director, and producer of the film. In the film Crisis, a drug trafficker arranges a multi-cartel fentanyl smuggling operation. An architect recovering from an oxycodone addiction tracks down the truth behind her son's disappearance, and a university professor battles unexpected revelations about his employer, a pharmaceutical company bringing a new non-addictive painkiller to the market. The film is set against the backdrop of the opioid epidemic. Their stories collide in this dramatic thriller that is nothing short of amazing. Check out the trailer to the film.
Our product will be the first non-addictive painkiller.
I'm looking for my son.
It's not our responsibility.
Then whose is it?
What you're doing now may be the most important thing you ever do.
So Nick, thank you so much for being here today to talk about the film Crisis.
Thank you so much, Renee. Pleasure to be here with you.
Let's dive right in. Why this film? Why did you make this film?
You know, I think like many people, I knew friends that got involved with substance abuse, particularly opioids. And I had a friend pass away about 15 years ago from opioid abuse. And at that time, so little was known about it. And we were all totally confused because he was a bright young man, 29, very funny, brilliant, high IQ. You know, what happened? And so it was many years until the public began to have an understanding of the dangers of opioids and specifically what the manufacturers knew or didn't know in taking down the safeguards, and how many people got hooked on opioids. And so as I started to research that, you know, my last one was Arbitrage with Richard Gere, where we looked into the hedge fund industry and the Wall Street crash. But I just thought so little was known about this. And there was a great opportunity not only to entertain people with a thriller, which is what I do, but give people a good time, but also really to bring some questions about the responsibility of the companies to the fore, to end the stigmatization of addicts, and to understand that this is a problem that touches everyone. And I know that anyone listening to the interview, whether they know of Shatterproof or not, will have someone that they know or love that has been involved with substances and increasingly opioids. So I really wanted to shine a light on that, and I think we did.
Yeah, you did a great job of it. Tell me a little bit more about your preparation for making the film, because I understand you not only directed it, but you wrote it and produced it as well, right?
I also have a small role in the film, which as an undercover DEA agent. So you'll decide whether or not that was a good idea after you watch it. For the viewers,
I've seen it. I didn't pick up on the fact that that was you. Wow!
I'm running with the shotgun.
Okay.
I guess I put on a little COVID weight, but you know we can't all be as beautiful as you, Renee.
Oh, stop. Okay, so tell me about your preparation in making the film. Like, who did you source for information? How long did it take you to put the film together?
Sure. Well, we started the film a little over 3 years ago. I love research and I get very deep into it, not to do anything didactic or boring, but really because I just think it makes an authentic film. You know, I was very inspired in this movie by a picture called The Insider by Michael Mann about the tobacco companies, also Steven Soderbergh's Traffic about the cocaine wars, you know, but these filmmakers that I try to follow, they live in the details. So the movie's not a history lesson, but you want to know that the person who wrote it and who made it is bringing you something that feels real, even though it's a simulated reality. So I do a lot of research, and I did in this picture. I hooked up with some reporters at the Los Angeles Times, and they had done a series of articles about opioid manufacturers and specifically what they knew or didn't know about the drug's potential for dependence, which I found fascinating. Then they hooked me up with this retired Los Angeles sheriff who had run the prescription narcotics task force, and he actually took on some of the real cartels on which this film is modeled. You know, everything in this movie basically happened. It's all true stories. that I've repurposed. The kid in the beginning, he's crossing the Canadian border with the bag full of pills. The 100% true story. I just took that out of the newspaper. The kid got busted there with 500,000 pills. And there's no border there. You know, you've seen maybe Steven Soderbergh's Traffic you looked at many years ago, and you hear everything, oh, Mexico, cocaine. Well, Canada, it's 2,000 miles. You can just walk across whenever you want. There's nothing, no interdiction. So again, this film is not particularly pro-law enforcement or anti-law enforcement. This is a film just looking at the opioid issue. I think understanding specifically what the research showed me, which is this problem was pretty much made in the lab. You know, opioids, morphine's been with us since the Civil War, you know, was given to soldiers on the battlefield. But somehow up until about 1993, when certain patents went live, we didn't have this opioid problem. You know, you had heroin abuse, you had other things that are still a problem. Sure. But then you had legions of hundreds of thousands of deaths and people, millions getting hooked into these things that were basically designed and perhaps not designed so well. So I'm not anti-pain medication. I'm pro pharmaceutical, pro pain medication. You know, I even invest my own money, what little I have, into research and things. But I am about people understanding that there need to be safeguards on these medicines. And again, the decriminalization, destigmatization of addicts, of helping people. And I think we've made progress in this country on that topic, but I think there's a ways still to go, you know, and understanding that addicts are not the enemy.
Absolutely. I think the film did a really great job of, it was entertaining and enlightening at the same time to someone who doesn't know anything about any of these topics. I feel like they could watch the film and then walk away from it with a better understanding of just how complex and intricate the problem is. So with that being said, what was the most shocking piece of information you came across in creating the film?
Ooh, shocking. Okay, well, I can see, Renee, I think you might have a career in presentation ahead of you, television presentation. Well, the most shocking thing, I mean, there are things that shock the conscience. You know, the manufacturers, there was data to suggest that when they began certain of the time-release medications, there were studies that showed that somewhere between 20 to 50% of the people that took the drug became dependent within the first cycle of use. You know, and a lot of the manufacturers or marketers had pushed this agenda. Barry Meyer wrote a great book about pain and the development that I had looked at. You know, and they were pushing these agendas. Oh, the drug is safe. People never go. But in fact, you know, there may have been a wealth of information that they knew. No, there are certain people, their body chemistry just reacts differently, and they get hooked into it within the first cycle through no fault of their own. You know, you take a time release oxycodone, and if it wears off too soon for you and you're seeking more of it, you know, you see this in the movie. There's experimentation on the mice, and they go seek the drug, and there's a little mice that go, I need more of that, you know. Yeah. So in our film, it's fictional drug, but it's sort of based into the real research. And so that was sort of shocking to me. You know, was stuff known, or was it pushed to the side? And you're seeing now people admit criminal liability, but you know, what liability, who's really being called to account? You know, who's being called to account? Nobody.
In making this film, did it help you to become even more compassionate toward people with opioid use disorder?
We made a little featurette about this movie where Gary Oldman and I talked about questions of addiction. And in it, Gary says, you know, he has a line that sort of stayed with me. He says, we tend to look at the disenfranchised, or, you know, the people on the fringes of society as people with drug problems. And now it's crossing over. And I think that's what making this film made me more aware of. Is I was there myself, you know, because everybody's experienced, you know, my kid did some marijuana, or I was in high school, or, you know, I got my aunt drinks too much, or, you know, God forbid, I did a little bit of hard drugs in college, LSD or whatever, right? Everybody's seen that. But I think when it comes to what we understood previously as heroin addiction, what we now understand as opioid addiction, it was always, oh, those are those people, you know, the junkies down on blah, blah, you know, and then you're like, oh my God, my mom is taking oxy and it's my girlfriend, it's taken over her life. And to understand that they're not bad people, they're people. And this is a thing that traps people. And it's extremely hard to get free of. As you know, I'm sure everybody listening who's a fan of your organization, they know the lifetime recovery stats, 1 in 10, 2 in 10. But listen, we got to change that, because we can change anything we want if we put enough energy into it, and we can break the cycle of addiction through treatment and through education, and through support. And I think what do you do with if you demonize an addict, they leave and they go back to their addiction. It's through support, and it's through embracing. And this is I'm not a tough love. I don't believe in any of that. So, I mean, that's for everyone to make their own decision. But I just think, I think we're making progress, but more progress has to be made.
What does more progress has to be made look like in your opinion? You're talking a lot about the weight of stigma in addiction. And I personally feel like this is one of the biggest things we have to overcome in order to make any progress to eradicate the addiction crisis in the US. So from your perspective, what more needs to be done?
Well, I think, look, just things like this that we're doing, talking about, spreading the word that there are intelligent, thoughtful people out here thinking about these issues, I think does destigmatize it. And you have someone, Gary Oldman, produced the film with me. He lent his name to the project, allowed me to build it. People who are cultural leaders coming in and addressing this. We have such a terrible legacy in America of the war on drugs. You think of, was it Nixon or, George Bush? When I was watching some documentary the other night, George Bush, the president, he sent someone out to go set someone up to sell crack on the steps of the White House so he could come in and hold up this crack thing with, see, this is the scourge of these evil people. And it's the most preposterous idea, that there are bad people and that they are setting out to hurt someone. Everything's understood within a system. So I think for me, we have to eliminate that idea, even as far as going to say, are the drug traffickers bad people? Yeah, obviously, if you're killing people, maybe it's not a good thing. But the thing is, what is a drug trafficker? It's just a smuggler. Armie Hammer was smuggling stuff to the Russians in 1917. Smuggling has been with us since the pharaohs. That's not going anywhere. It's looking at what are the incentives that a society sets up that encourage or discourage certain behaviors. So I think for me, progress, if you think of stigmatization, Bush, Reagan, and the hypocrisy of the politicians, Reagan with the Contras, and they're smuggling cocaine at the same time they're doing the war on drugs. Anyway, this is not to turn into this crazy tinfoil hat didactic thing, but it's really just to say that we have to continue the positive, progressive social movement towards understanding addiction as either a disease or an affliction. If I got some gardeners outside my house, okay, if I walk out there and I get my arm cut by a buzzsaw and I have half my arm hanging off, right? What is my girlfriend's going to say? Let's drive you to the emergency room. I'm going to get there. They're going to help try to put me back together. They're not going to say, you're a bad person because you walked into a buzzsaw, okay? Right. So let's take the opioid thing very specifically. Unlike perhaps a college kid trying a marijuana or a drink too early, and you could blame them, even though you shouldn't, it's ridiculous. With the opioid thing, you have a doctor gave people these pills and said, these are safe. You have a pharmaceutical company marketed and pushed them as a solution to problems. And then they had a problem because of their body chemistry, and you want to call them an addict and suspend them from their work. Treatment is, many places treatment is a joke, and this is all socioeconomically driven. I assume people listening to this podcast are, more in the well-to-do category. But when I was researching the film, I went to Detroit, I went to 8 Mile, I went to methadone clinics there. You walk in, they're ridiculous. I was able to walk in off the street. If you give them $60, they'll give you methadone. You don't have to fill out any paperwork, you don't have to do anything, and everyone in there is poor and black and this, so it's we got to have a kind of, improve the standards of care for our brothers and sisters everywhere, not just at the nice rehab. We got to put some government money towards treatment. Hopefully we will. These are my politics, not everybody's going to agree with that.
Well, very much a lot of what you're talking about is what we're very focused on here at Shatterproof, and it's about making big structural changes to the way addiction is treated in this country. So what is the one thing that you hope that your viewers will take away from watching the film?
Well, first of all, I hope they enjoy the film and have a good time. You know, there's a time and a place for policy debate, and there's a time and a place for education. You know, this is supposed to be gripping and keep you on the edge of your seat. Oh, what's going to happen? Oh, no. You know, and hopefully you enjoy it in that way as people have my last films, and you recommend it to your friends and they buy it, and we get our money back and we can go make you another movie. You know, beyond that, I think it's all the things we've been talking about. It's awareness, it's questioning the powers that be, calling some of the powerful to account for their bad behavior, but understanding really, again, what are the incentives that drive that behavior? Because it's not to say, you know, Dr. blah, blah is not the enemy. You know, he has to be embraced as well. We just shouldn't pay him to write pain prescriptions to people, you know, and the FDA needs to take a more active role in monitoring whether or not the drug is safe and efficient.
All right, Nick, so what's next for you? Any other projects in the works?
Always other projects in the works. I don't know, I'm getting more excited about activism, you know, maybe there's some more stuff we can do together. You know, finding ways to make a positive difference that are also fun. You know, I mean, that's one of the things that's nice about filmmaking is it's exciting, it's fun, and there's a way to present these ideas that isn't slideshows and PowerPoints, you know, and hopefully capture more interest in the topic. So I like that idea.
Well, we would be honored to work with you on that. Nick, thank you so much for being here today. I loved the film. Everybody, you have to check it out. You have to watch it. It is absolutely a thriller. It will keep you on the edge of your seat, and you'll learn something along the way. If you would like to watch Crisis, head on over to quiverdistribution.com/crisis to see where you can watch the movie. Nick, thank you so much.
And it's available everywhere, in theaters, on iTunes, Amazon, Vudu, wherever you want to stream it. We got it for you there. Go check it out. Please watch it, and please give it a good rating online. Those are the things that really matter, actually, if you are on Apple TV or you are on Amazon, or even, God forbid, you're on Rotten Tomatoes or iTunes. Giving it, if you like it, giving it a good rating, that really does help us. I can't stress that enough. It's the modern day word of mouth on the internet. So please rate it highly if you like it.
Absolutely. Thank you again. We really appreciate you taking time to talk with us today.
Thank you.